Welcome back to the Best of series, where I basically take a specific comic book character or team and look at the best stories from them in comic books, whether it be in the main timeline or alternate universes. I just look at the best books from this character. And I thought today we would do the X-Men, so a team, not a specific character. So, join me as I look at the best of the X-Men. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Geek City. As always with these videos, let me know what characters you would like to see for the best of series next. And couple of announcements. As I've been saying the last couple of videos, I'm really close to getting monetized, which would help me upgrade the quality of the channel. I believe you have to have 1,000 subscribers, which I'm really close to. I'm at like 912, and you have to get 4,000 watch time hours, and I'm at 2,000. So we are close. It might take some time, but I believe by over the summer, if we lock in over the summer, we could definitely hit that point, which would be very helpful for me. So let's get started here and not waste any more time. So the first book we got to start at is where it all began, and that's with the original X-Men series. So this is Epic Collection Volume 1, Children of the Atom, written by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. This Epic Collection collects issues 1 through 23 of X-Men. And I will admit, this isn't the best X-Men. Definitely not, it's not great, but I feel like you still need to read it at some point. But if you want to start getting into X-Men, this is not the book I would suggest for you to start with. I do think it needed to be on here just because it is the original material, and you do got to see the original vision by Stan Lee, and you got to see the Brotherhood and all that. So that was important that you read that. I would suggest reading this after you've read a decent amount of X-Men. Don't let this be your starting on point. That's not a good idea. I never read Golden Age books as your first time with the character. But overall, although it's not great and it kind of sold out, sales-wise, it didn't do good originally. And we'll talk about once I got fixed, once we get to the omnibuses. But this is X-Men, the original stuff. You got to read it. We're going to be skipping a little bit, and now we're going to be talking about the Dark Phoenix saga. Y'all, everybody's heard of this story. This is one of the most iconic storylines, and if you are not familiar with comics and you just know the X-Men movies, don't be frightened. The movies have done a terrible, terrible, terrible job adapting this iconic story. And I think there's a reason this story hasn't been adapted yet. It is called a saga for a reason. This trade that I own collects X-Men 129 and 137, and some of this will double dip with an omnibus we got to talk about, but I do need to talk about this one because it does collect the whole saga. And since it kind of takes place over multiple different events, I feel like it's difficult to adapt into the movie, but what do I know? So, yeah, I mean, this is an iconic storyline. You get fantastic artwork in here by John Byrne. Classic. You get Chris Claremont, who is probably is the definitive writer on X-Men. And this is a really iconic story. You get them fighting against this evil cult. You get them fighting against Jean Grey, have Phoenix blowing up planets, and then you get this like giant battle, this giant alien space arena, all in the span of 10 issues? Something like that. Yeah, it's an epic storyline that everybody who wants to get into comics needs to read. Alright, next up we have X-Men Days of Futures Past. Another one where if you've read the movie, just want to let you know now, totally different in here. Now, the Days of Futures Past storyline in the comics is so much shorter. It's 2 issues, but this trade collects X-Men 138 through 144, and then Uncanny X-Men 142 to 143, and X-Men Annual 4, because they rebranded the name from X-Men to Uncanny X-Men. So this collects a ton of issues. This literally picks up right after the Dark Phoenix trade, which, by the way, if you do want to see the reading order for X-Men, if you want to know how to read it all in order, I have made a video of that. Look up X-Men reading order. It's in my reading order playlist on YouTube, so check that out in the playlist. But yeah, iconic storyline. I think the movie actually did a better job because they can expand on it. But this is only 2 issues, and it's totally different. In the comic book, Kitty Pryde goes back in the time, not Wolverine. They only did that because Wolverine's the character that Fox used the most. But it's still an iconic story that everybody needs to read, and it's totally different structure from how it is in the movie. So this is one everybody needs to check out. It's an iconic story. And then what most people will consider the best X-Men story of all time, God Loves Man Kills. This is the old magazine version, the original version that it came out in, because this came out as a magazine. But there are so many ways to get the story. It's written by Chris Claremont, and there's a reason most people consider this the best X-Men story. It's a great comment on hate and discrimination and racism. X2, the movie, The second X-Men film does kind of roughly adapt some of the elements in here, but it's still totally different. It definitely, I feel like, gave the chance for some other characters to shine, because you, of course, like Cyclops and Storm and Professor X are captured, and so you get like characters that kind of get to have the spotlight. This was whenever Kitty Pryde had just joined the team. You get great artwork in here. You get a great villain. Overall, fantastic story. This is an iconic comic book. Now we're going to move on to another epic collection. This is X-Men Fatal Attractions. If you watch X-Men 97, and spoiler alert, you saw the part where Wolverine gets the adamantium ripped out of his bones. You want to know where that came from? It came from this book right here. This is Fatal Attractions, another iconic X-Men event where basically Magneto goes crazy, and there's an epic fight collecting all of that in this epic collection. This epic collection also collects the Gambit miniseries, so if you're a Gambit fan, you get all 4 issues of that. It collects Uncanny X-Men 301 through 306, X-Men 24 through 25, X-Men Unlimited 2, Wolverine 75, Gambit 1 through 4, and X-Men Survival Guide to the Mansion. It's an epic story. Magneto's going crazy in here. If you want to see Beast Mode Magneto, and if you're a big Wolverine fan and you want to know what happened with the adamantium and why after this in the comics he was like feral, that's all from here. So, and then we have another event, X-Men Age of Apocalypse. I will say this is very much a product of its time. Age of Apocalypse is very 90s. I would actually kill to get a proper Age of Apocalypse movie. We got X-Men Apocalypse, which has nothing to do with this storyline, and even with that, it was still a bad movie. But I think this could be a good animated movie. So this is where basically Professor X's son goes back in time to kill Magneto, but he accidentally kills Professor X, and that changes the whole timeline and causes this world where Apocalypse rules over it, and Magneto like leads the X-Men, and a lot of the X-Men that you know and love are working for the other side with Apocalypse, and then really fun, very 90s, very, but I feel like this is another one. This is one of those events that everybody needs to read if you want to get into X-Men. Next up, my personal favorite X-Men run, Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon. Not a huge Joss Whedon guy as a person, but he's a great writer. He wrote the Avengers films, Toy Story, Buffy, The Vampire Slayer, and he wrote this X-Men comic, and it's fantastic, man. It's great stuff here. This is Joss Whedon. You also get John Cassidy artwork in here. Rest in peace. He passed away a little bit ago. But this is a more modern jumping on point. This is kind of when comics are changing, and this first epic collection collects the story where Cerebro turns into a character, like a real person, like a villain. You get one of the X-Men who was dead at the time being brought back. Who is that? You will find out by reading this book. Ton of great character moments. Joss Whedon can write really well, and so it's very rare nowadays when you get comic books that are great fun, but also have like great character moments in there with great dialogue. So like the dialogue in this book is incredible. So, and then the artwork by John Cassidy is beautiful. It's like realistic but cartoonish at the same time. So yeah, there's a reason this is my favorite X-Men book. This is the one I suggest to you the most for everybody to start. It is a great jumping on point. This is volume 1 of the Epic Collection. Final modern book I want to talk about. Not my personal favorite. I'm not a huge fan of this run, but most people love it, and it is kind of a jumping on point. That is X-Men by Jonathan Hickman. People love the Krakoa era. Not a huge fan personally, but a lot of people love it, so I did feel like I needed to talk about it on here. So this is X-Men by Jonathan Hickman, Volume 1, and it's collected in an omnibus. And then this led into like a whole Krakoa thing, and it was super difficult to collect, and I just wasn't a fan of it. I do like the design of these X-Men books, like they all matched. It does have great artwork, and Jonathan Hickman is a good writer. Like, don't get me wrong. But most people love this book, so it's probably just me. It seems to be just me. So maybe you'll check. So I just wanted to put this one out here because the odds of you liking it are a lot higher than it just happened to be me that didn't like it. Now let's move on to the omnibuses. I actually own a pretty decent amount of X-Men omnibuses. So first up we have Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1. So I talked about at the beginning of the video, the original X-Men series didn't really sell very well. So eventually they stopped the book. So this was whenever they revived it. So you have the Giant-Sized X-Men #1, which introduced Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, kind of those iconic characters. All those guys came in that issue and basically just revitalized the X-Men and brought it back. And so this omnibus collects half of the Dark Phoenix saga. You also get other great stories in here. Like I do love the death something rising. I forget what it's called. You got the first appearance of Dazzler, first appearance of Emma Frost, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Phoenix. Good stuff in here. Great artwork. And yeah, this is where I would suggest getting into X-Men. Read the old stuff, the Golden Age stuff, after reading this and like Astonishing X-Men and some other books talk about. Definitely, probably like the second book that I would suggest. First one is Astonishing X-Men, but then this one, like this is, you gotta read this. Next up, we have another event. X-Men Mutant Massacre. So this is not only an X-Men event, this is just a Marvel event in general. Of course, it mainly is an X-Men book, that's why it has X-Men on it. But this collects other stuff in here. So this is about the Marauders, a group of characters that are killing these mutants known as the Morlocks. The Morlocks hide in the sewers because it's difficult for them to hide into society like a lot of our X-Men members. And so the Marauders are hunting them now, and it's this whole event. And so, like, there's a ton of characters involved here. Of course, the X-Men, you also get the X-Factor, which is the original X-Men team. You got Thor, the New Mutants Power Pack, Daredevil, the first time Wolverine and Sabretooth ever fought. Something crazy happens to Angel in here. You get the Fantastic Four, like a ton of characters show up in here. This really is an event. Can we just talk about how awesome that looks? That's cool. Yeah, man, this is an epic event. I've always been on the fence about event omnibuses. I learned that the hard way by buying that Final Crisis book. And since then, I've done some research about it. But this is one that I generally do suggest reading. It's a ton of fun. Mutant Massacre. This is a good one. Another great jumping on point, X-Men by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, Volume 1. I didn't love this book the first time I read it. I thought it was kind of slow. And I do think Volume 2 of the omnibus is really when it gets good, because that's when you get the relaunch with the iconic X-Men #1. But none of that's collected in here. This is Volume 1. This is, Jim Lee only does like half of his omnibus. But there's a ton of iconic stuff in here. We saw Deadpool Wolverine, and you saw that Wolverine where he's like tied to X that came in here. You got this evil Psylocke. You have that fun issue from World War II with Captain America and Black Widow. The first appearance of Gambit. Kind of great stories. Very 90s. Great artwork, of course. And so yeah. This is a great one. Another one of the best omnibuses that I own, and a great jumping on point, we have New X-Men by Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison, one of the best writers. This is one of the best runs. This Astonishing X-Men and Uncanny X-Men are the three omnibuses or books that I suggest for you. This series is great. You have artwork from Frank Quitely that some people don't love, some people love. I do think it fits for this book. You have E is for Extinction, which is the first story that is told in here, and it's incredible. The villain of Death Wolverine, Cassandra Nova, who I felt was done dirty. If you want to see a real great version of her, this is where she first appeared. She's menacing. The death of an iconic X-Men character is in here. Great artwork all throughout. It's great stuff. They have the designs of the movies because they were really popular at the time. But this book is great. Another one of the better jumping on points, definitely. I feel like I keep repeating myself with that, but X-Men's got some good comics, man. Final one here is in a book that is not canon. It's in the Ultimate Universe, and that is, of course, Ultimate X-Men. This is written by Mark Miller. And I love most of the Ultimate Universe. I do love. I don't like the Ultimates. Maybe I just need to reread it, but I'm a huge fan of that one. I loved this book when I read it. I bought this omnibus and loved it, but my copy is really damaged, which I hate. I hate that. I love this book, and you can't see it here, but the binding on this book is jacked up. I'll show you I'll show you in the close-ups, but this book is jacked up. And it's a shame because this is one of my favorites. I love this book. It's a modern retelling, and it's in a different universe, so it can retell the origin in a new modern way, and it can do its own thing. That's why I love the Ultimate Universe so much. So if you want to see a modern version, that's able to kind of do its own thing with different interpretations, I think this is one for you. It's a little more gritty and edgy, but overall, I love it. So those are all the X-Men books that I suggest. That is the best of X-Men. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe. Please help me continue to get monetized. I really want to improve the channel in that way. Let me know in the comments what videos you want to see next. And as always, stay geeky.